welcome to 30 Minutes of Faith. We're very happy to have Pastor Rick Cole with us today from the Capital Christian Center. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. I've been looking forward to being with you.
Appreciate you coming a lot. And we just want to visit for a while. So tell us where you were born and raised.
Well, I was born in Marion, Ohio. My parents met when they went to Bible college in Springfield, Missouri. So my dad was from Tacoma, Washington, my mom from Wisconsin. They met in Springfield, Missouri at Bible school. So after graduating from there, they started their ministry in that part of the country. So my dad became a pastor of a small church in Ohio, and that's where I was born. 2 years into my life, they moved back to the West Coast to Washington State, where my dad was from. So then really, I feel like my home roots are in Washington State. Olympia, Washington is where I grew up through elementary school, middle and high school, into college. So that's really my memory of my childhood. And then my parents moved here to Sacramento in 1978. I was 20 years old and a junior in college. So our family kind of transplanted here to the Sacramento area.
I have a personal opinion that says where you go from boyhood to manhood is usually home.
Right.
No matter if you leave it and never go back, that's still home.
That's
really
where you
develop and all those other things. Now, people are well aware of your father and that he's passed away in the last year or so. Yes. How is your mother?
She's doing great. I'm very impressed with just how she has handled this season. Transition, it was difficult, but she's kept a very positive attitude. It's shown the strength that she has in her life, and she lives close to us, and we're very involved with her. She's still driving and just turned 80 this last year, but healthy and happy and really doing well.
You only have to look at the woman to see why the man has done so well.
That's the truth right there. And I think this is actually shown even more to people because my dad was always the out front guy and my mom was more quiet, always engaged, but more in the background. And I think through this loss of my dad, it's like people have seen the quality of a person that she is, even in a new light, and realized, well, no wonder he did well. He had her, as the backbone and the strength behind him.
And it shouldn't surprise us, but it kind of does.
I know, it's true.
Well, where'd she come from?
Yeah.
All of that stuff. Do you have siblings?
I have just one brother. He's 18 months older than me. So we grew up pretty close together. We were 1 year apart in school. So we played a lot of same sports teams and had a close relationship growing up together. And now he actually works with me at our church.
Oh, good. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
So my brother, my sister-in-law, she runs our women's ministry, and my brother, our men's ministry, and they work together in some of our discipleship kind of things. So it's a real joy to have family that we can work with like that too.
And how about your wife and children? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. My wife's background is interesting too. We both come from ministers' homes, pastors' homes. So I think that's part of what kind of brought us together is we have a very similar upbringing. And her dad was quite noted for songwriting. He was a singer, songwriter. There's some hymns that are in the hymn books of many churches that have his name to them. He wrote them. So I've got a mansion just over the hilltop.
Oh,
it's
yes.
an old song he wrote. Supper Time was one that was kind of well known back in the day. People like Elvis recorded a couple of his songs. Johnny Cash did that. And so some well-known people recorded some of his gospel songs that he wrote back in the day. So he passed away a few years back, but that's also another part of our heritage that we love, and that's where she came from.
So she got the genetic strand?
She did.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she's very musical, and she sings, writes music as well. And I think it went from my father-in-law to my wife, and then from her to our oldest son. We have 3 kids, and our oldest son is real musical. So he's a singer, songwriter. Our other 2 kids aren't really interested in music like that, so it's kind of gone down one generation to another through those individuals. Yeah.
Our children sort of come to us already grown up.
Yeah.
And they know what they want and
Yeah.
how to go after it and
Seems
all
that
those other
way.
things. So how did you come to the ministry?
Growing up in a pastor's home, it always seemed like it was out there as a possibility. I didn't think that was for me when I was in high school. I was more bashful, I think, in a way. My mom's personality was more in the background. I probably took after her a little bit. And my dad was always the out front guy, real kind of vivacious personality. I could just sit back and be fine with that. So being in front of people wasn't something that I had on my agenda of things to do. But I would have people, even when I was in high school, say to me, I think that's in you too, to be a pastor.
That's a good thing to have said about you.
Yeah. And I questioned it, like I didn't understand, what they would see. But it was still, I think, thoughts that stayed with me. There's people that are thinking that, and they see something, in me that maybe I don't see. So one of the things that happened when I graduated from high school, my dad said to us, my brother and I both, that he would help us with our college education if we went to one of our denominational Bible schools. They had full offering of programs, so you could do liberal arts and things like that too. But if we went to one of those, then he would help us pay for it. Well, that was good motivation. So
absolutely.
So I started that path at one of our Bible schools in Kirkland, Washington, near Seattle, Northwest University, and just started taking the regular courses and then some of the Bible training courses. So
did it catch to you quickly? I mean, did it feel like this is good?
Yeah,
I like this pursuit.
It was more gradual. It started to, but I think just staying in that process, being open to it, one step led to another. In the summers, I would go home and work in the youth department. We had a youth pastor that I would just serve under and volunteer some time in the summers. And so I got some experience doing that and enjoyed it and didn't think I would. So that surprised me a little bit. Yeah. So 2-3 years into my college education, probably about the third year is when I felt like, I think this is for me. And I made up my mind that's what I should do. And then my fourth year, I graduated and went into ministry then as a youth pastor. And then it led to actually working with my dad. I worked with him here at our church for a number of years.
Did it please him that you took that path?
I think so, very much so. He would probably be more forward of making that known that was his hope or his desire. He didn't force it on us, but I did know.
I'll keep my fingers crossed down
Yeah,
here.
and I knew that was something that would really would please him, make him feel good about what we were doing. So definitely he was proud of my brother and I, even in following that path.
I sat through some meetings 8 and 10 years ago where your father was present, played an active role. There'd be evangelical things and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And it was clear to see that he was a terrific man and that he had good vision and, he knew where he was headed.
Right.
And then when you came to the spotlight, I was a little sympathetic because I had a father who was a dynamic man. Everybody thought he was really good. And in your childhood, they're sort of saying, you should grow up and be like your dad.
Yeah.
And inside, you're kind of saying, well, yeah, my dad's a really cool guy, but there's some things I want to do and say, And so as I watched you, I thought, wow, I bet his parents are proud of him. And he's doing really, really well.
I appreciate the sympathy. And there were times where I needed it. Like, it was good and difficult all at the same time, where I felt very blessed to be able to follow my dad. When he finished his pastoral work at the church, it was his desire that I would follow him, and I wasn't sure that that's what I wanted. It seemed too much, over my head, I felt like at the time. But just being willing, being open and stepping through that door. No one can do what they do on their own. So there's always a great team of people around me, and I felt very supported. So it was a great environment. and I had a lot of good support. And I think, it took a while. Like it's 18 years that I've been in the role I'm in after following my dad there.
So you've surpassed him a number of years.
Just a year ago. He was 17 in that role at our church, and now I've been 18. So 35 years in our family life is kind of a special thing too.
Well, that's a good thing for Sacramento. My grandfather, my father's father, told me in high school, God won't care about your ability. He'll only care about your availability.
I think that's powerful.
And it rang my bell.
Right.
I thought, okay, I think I can do that. If he's,
Right.
it doesn't matter the ability, I can make myself available. Now, did your wife come into the picture after you had graduated?
Just before. So kind of that story goes, when my parents moved here in 1978, I came down at the end of my junior year. I was going to college up in Washington. Spent the summer here, interned with the youth pastor. The youth pastor that was here when my dad came was actually my wife's first cousin. So Rich Wilkerson, his uncle, Kathy's dad, was already scheduled to come out to our church to sing some of his music and things he was known for. So since Rich had just met me now and had just been with Kathy's family back in Texas, is where they lived, he kind of put the pieces together. We were the same age, and so he called up his uncle and said, "Hey, Uncle Ira, you should bring Kathy when you come out here. We have this new pastor. He has a son that she should meet." So he kind of put this together, I guess. And so she came out with him, spent a weekend. We were 3 days together that weekend, and things just kind of hit it off, I guess, in a short period of time. She went back to Texas, and we wrote a lot of letters, made a lot of phone calls. I went back and visited for a few days. She came out here for Thanksgiving, and we got engaged. So we met in June, got engaged in November, and then got married the next August.
Did it matter to her that you were a minister? I mean,
Yeah.
I know she'd be looking for a good man and all those other things.
Yeah.
But because she'd been a minister's daughter, was she sort of looking for a minister, or that just happened? That's the way it worked out.
I think it kind of just happened. Like, I don't think she was looking specifically for that. She dated some other guys that weren't going toward ministry, some business-related guys and things like that. So I don't think that was absolute priority. But then when that happened that way, the fact that she was very familiar with that world, I think, made it comfortable. So it wasn't like a huge learning curve, because she had grown up in it just as I had. So I think that's part of the blessing that we had, was having a common ground to come together on. Didn't have to overcome maybe some things someone else would have had to.
That's a good way to say that. Now, because you and I have talked about being grandfathers in
Yes.
recent times, did your parents get to enjoy your children a whole bunch and
They did.
all that stuff? And,
Yeah.
and the kids get to know Grandpa and Grandma?
Very much. My brother and sister-in-law have 4, and my wife and I 3. So there were 7 grandkids to my parents, and they grew up here, very involved in their grandkids' lives. My mom still is, very much connected to the 7 grandkids. They're all adult age now. But that was very much a blessing for our family to have that kind of connection and have that kind of closeness to the grandparents.
I loved my grandparents, and as I've become a grandfather, I have a strong feeling I don't want to do or say anything that would ever embarrass or hurt our grandchildren. And I didn't feel that quite so strongly with the kids, because we were just raising
Right.
them. We were just trying to get through life,
So
but,
true, yeah.
But with the grandchildren, it's a whole
It is
whole
special,
different thing.
yeah. We now have 4, my wife and I. Our 3 kids are all married. 2 of them have 2 children each. One of them, they don't have children yet. They have 2 cats. That's their kids. Yeah, and actually they're hairless cats. I don't know if you've ever seen that variety. They look like aliens. So
They're a little spooky.
they are, definitely. They grow on you a little bit. But our other 2 kids each have 2 kids. So we have 4 grandkids that they all live here in the area. So
Wonderful.
we get to enjoy them.
Did you have a pet as a boy?
No, I didn't actually. We played a lot of sports, and that was kind of our family activity. I think my dad was working a lot, traveling some, and just the idea of having pets he didn't like that much.
Yeah, you have to give them a lot of attention.
Yeah. Right.
Did you have a favorite team in sports growing up that you really watched?
Yeah, growing up, one of my dad's, I think you kind of gravitate toward your family's interests, and
I agree.
my dad's team was the Yankees. Somehow he had this connection to Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris. You know, when he was growing up, these guys were like, iconic, and so I gravitated toward that and kind of became a Yankees fan when I was young and growing up. So baseball, it was them. My mom grew up in Wisconsin, and so my dad somehow had this attraction to Green Bay. So football became the Green Bay Packers.
You can't go too bad with those two
No,
teams.
yeah, I think it's probably, my dad always was interested in winning because those teams won a lot. I think that part of was his attraction to that too. And then growing up in Washington, at the time there weren't any pro teams. Now there are, but when I was growing up, they hadn't arrived in Seattle yet. But they had the university, the Washington Huskies. So we would go to some football games.
Another real good program.
Yeah, and those were really a great experience to go watch some of the games there at Husky Stadium. So that was part of our
Do
growing
you
up.
still do some hobby sorts of things? I mean, are you a golfer or a tennis player?
Probably golf is the main hobby. Again, I think I picked that up from my dad. He loved to do that. So that was something we'd do together. He'd call me up, hey, you have time this day to go golfing? I'd try to do it whenever I could. That was one of the great memories of being with my dad, was on the golf course. So I adopted that, I think, as a hobby. It's probably the main one for me.
Golf's really delightful when you're with family.
It is, yeah.
And some days your putter works and some
Yeah.
days it doesn't.
It can be real frustrating.
but
yeah.
dad and sons and that don't seem
Yeah.
to care too much.
Yeah.
Talk to us about what you're doing specifically right now in Sacramento.
Yeah, some of the things that have developed for me in the last probably 5 years or so, I didn't anticipate. I feel like in some ways I stumbled into some of the activities. One of them being working with the homeless community. And it came through our mayor's initiative, and I learned of some of the things he was hoping to do to help the homeless population. And there was a couple of seats on a committee that he had organized, a couple of clergy seats, and one of those clergy seats was vacant. So I had just put in a call and inquired if they were looking for any help, and they immediately opened that door. So walked through that door, and then have learned so much about what's happening there that's become a passion. So the faith community together now has developed Winter Sanctuary, where from November until March, those winter months, churches open up their doors in different faith communities around the city here, and they'll bring people from downtown, sometimes 100, 120 people, keep them overnight in a church facility, feed them a nice dinner, have some volunteers there to connect with the homeless population, try to connect them to different services that are available. So that's become a real blessing, is reaching out and helping those who are needing help and can't really help themselves for the time.
That's a really good program,
It's
by
been
the
great.
way, and people are. That's actually focusing a bit of a spotlight on Sacramento.
Yeah.
For that sort of work.
Yeah, it's great.
Continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things that's been really enjoyable. We've gotten involved through our outreach ministry in helping some inner city schools. So we adopted an elementary school in Oak Park probably about 6 years ago, and helped with some after-school tutoring, some other extracurricular activities, helped them connect to healthcare. Some of the kids and families that didn't know how to do that, we helped them with some of those efforts. So we've seen a lot of really positive things happen with students and families at Oak Ridge Elementary. Test scores have increased as well through just the one-on-one care and tutoring. And then the school district actually, because they've seen positive results there, asked if we would assist in a couple others. So now John Still Elementary Middle School in South Sacramento, and recently Rosa Parks Elementary Middle School.
Wow.
We're beginning to partner there. So just helping some of our members find ways to engage in the community to help people that don't have all the resources that some in the suburban areas, the suburban schools, have more resources, and just the tax dollars and sometimes just the family structures have more stability there. And in the urban centers, we still have a lot of poverty and challenges. So we're trying to get involved there wherever we can and make a difference. It's just sometimes feels so overwhelming, it's hard to know where to start. But we feel like if we just take one step at a time, we help one person, that's one person more than was helped yesterday, and it feels good to do that. One other thing we do is we have an outreach through sports. So we have a good sports facility because of the Christian school that we have. We developed our property with athletic facilities. So we use that too for community events, adult athletic programs, softball and soccer and things like that. And we do a training program for area high schools. We call it Character Combine. So we developed a theme of teaching coaches how to teach character principles to their student athletes, not just win games, that's obviously a goal, but more than that, to train them in life skills and how to be strong character kids. So that's been going on now for, I think we're in about our 5th year. Last year we had 700 coaches with their captains from their teams come to it, so it's really growing.
That's a big number.
It is. We're very excited about that, and all the major schools in the whole region, all the major high schools have their key coaches involved in it, and there's a real good community, fraternity, and both the female coaches and the male coaches developing friendships and coming together to learn from each other. And even though they do battle, on the field, there's a good feeling about the relationships that are being built. So we feel like that's another positive ingredient that's going on in our community.
We were talking before we came on camera about finding people who are good coaches and good people both at the same time. And I was thinking as I was listening there, in high school, where we grew up in smaller areas, yeah, you did battle on field, but then you may have gone to the dances with them or gone out to have a hamburger, and you were friends and you knew each other, and your older brother might be dating his older sister, or whatever the case might be. And sports got a little beyond that down the road. So this is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's good. I've actually had the opportunity just this year to help a little bit with the chaplains program with the Kings. Previously, we had a chaplain who served that area of ministry for as long as the Kings were in town, Bishop Sherwood Carthen. And he was iconic in our community, and he had a sudden heart attack, passed away last year. So it left this vacancy in that area, that role. So I've had a chance to assist a little bit there. One of the things that's unique about it in the NBA, both teams meet together for their chapel before each game. An hour before the game, they come together. It's the only professional sports where they do that. They have a spiritual thought and prayer together before they go out and compete against each other. So that's actually been really rewarding to see as well, that when those athletes come together, though they're going to go do battle, they have a relationship with each other that is friendly. Life is a whole lot more than who wins a game. And you see the value of the character and what life really means when you've got both of these sets of great athletes together that are going to go try to beat each other, but they first meet together in a spirit of unity and a spirit of faith, and then go forward to try to do their best against each other. But life means more than the battle. There's a whole lot to it, that we're in it for each other.
Those of us in society who are followers of Christ, like you and I, the Beatitudes and the Golden Rule and a whole bunch of those things mean a lot to us, and we've tried to pattern our lives after that. But in the interfaith work, and I was thinking about the NBA teams, we certainly would have Muslims and Jews and other sorts of faiths that are important to our society.
Right.
And how do you see that in Sacramento in years to come?
Yeah.
I mean, Christianity is still the long pole in the tent in our area, but there are plenty of other faiths, and these are wonderful people doing
Yes.
really, really good work.
Yeah. I feel like that's actually a growing positive phenomenon too in our community, is that some of those walls of division have come down a little more than they were raised a little higher in the past.
I agree.
And I've found that to be, again, doors that open, you try to step through, you don't always understand it or calculate it in advance what it's about. I still don't fully comprehend it, but I've felt really kind of led in the last, I don't know, 2-3 years, where I've met with a Muslim leader at the Salam Center, and then a Jewish rabbi. And so we've had a very unique kind of coming together of meeting with a Muslim imam, a Jewish rabbi, a Christian pastor, and we've met together to break bread together, learn about each other, and it's really developed a wonderful friendship and appreciation of each other, and that we're not enemies, that we're all trying to do God's work as we understand it, and that we can have more of a sense of community even among ourselves in a faith community that tends to in the past be quite divided. So I feel like we're in process on that, making progress, hopefully a lot more progress to come.
You know, in the 1920s and 30s, pre-World War II, many of the faith leaders wanted to thin the herd.
Mm.
You know, they wanted to get rid of that group over there. That group is of no value to us, whatever they might have been. And I've always, in recent years, been thrilled that we can come together, even if we don't completely understand, because we won't hurt the people we like.
Yes.
You know, if we get to know them, everything will go along real well.
Right.
Well, we're drawing to an end, so let me ask you my final question of, if you could wave a magic wand and do something that would repair or replace or improve something in the world, what would that be?
Seems like the world is quite broken down in the divisions.
It does.
I would feel like if we could just learn to love people for who they are, not try to take someone else's ground, occupy what we have been given, and be less judgmental of people. The judgmentalism and the divisions are what I think our adversary tries to bring at us, and our God wants us to come together and be one under His tent and umbrella.
Nice sentence there, not take somebody else's ground. That's a great way to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Very much.
Appreciate
nice to
it.
visit with you.
Thank you.
Okay.
You bet.